It's the 4th of August and the garden is very full. Let's take a little tour. Just had a little bit of rain, much needed rain. Things are very happy in here. It's my favorite spot for my book in the afternoons. And the view from here and down to the road. I love this particular hosta. It just looks like it's glowing, especially after a little rain like we've just had, but early evening as well. It's pretty special. There's a lot of hostas in here. Some of them need to be divided. I'll make note of that, hopefully, and get to it in the springtime. Some pops of color, annuals. This Baptisia has been massive this year, and I've actually cut it back a couple of times. Beautiful purple-blue blooms earlier in the year. Let's go down the pathway to the side of the house. Lots of hostas and ferns. It's north facing, so lots of shade. Hence the choice of plants. I can't take credit for these lovely ferns. They were here when I moved here, but have of course doubled in size, I'm going to say, in the last 5 years. I have installed the rock drain alongside. A lot of water and snow melt comes down off this hillside early in the year, all times of year actually. And it's good to have a place for that water to drain down to. Let's move on up the hill. It's one of the rain barrels that I have. A little bit more than half full right now, as you can see. Very valuable water resource. So you can see the back of the house is definitely upward sloping. It's a challenge growing things on a hillside. This garden is fairly established. Some of the plantings were here already when I moved here, and some I have added or moved, you know, the usual gardening stuff. Let's go down here. You can hear the pond bubbling away. There it is. There are a number of goldfish in here. It's a bit murky at the moment. Not that easy to see them. They're in there though. And up the hillside. Let's keep moving along. Nice protected spot to sit in the afternoon with my book. It's a willow tree that was actually just a tiny branch when it was first planted, which has gotten very tall. Wanted to show you something that I purchased the seeds in England when I was there in May. It's a little plant called Cerinthe. I've never seen it here, and it is lovely. Look at that bloom. It's very unusual looking, isn't it? It is an annual for us in Canada anyway, so I will be letting that go to seed so that I can collect more for next year. Lots of echinacea and rudbeckia, black-eyed Susans, some Russian sage, some nice yucca. flowers were spectacular on the yucca this year. This one's already been trimmed back. I need to get to the other one. There's a smoke bush, more hosta. You can see those skies are pretty dark over there. Up at the top of the hill, you'll see some chairs. That's a fire pit up there. I've had many a fire pit evening up there, especially when my boys come to visit. There's the other hillside garden. Has a couple of bare spots that I'm addressing, that I'm working on, but other than that, it's fairly established. A couple of nice trees in here that I've planted. Some new additions just yesterday. Some friends gave me Artemisia, among other things, so I've planted them in here. They're the silvery plants that you see. They're lovely. This takes a beating. A lot of sun, a lot of heat, not a lot of water, so it has to be very drought tolerant and able to withstand that kind of condition, and it is. I know they class it as invasive, but I do love the creeping Jenny around the propane tanks because, frankly, what else are you going to put in there? It does the job. In here, in amongst the spirea, this year I planted vegetables, green beans, peas, and of course there are some lilies in there as well. Some new bee balm, hasn't bloomed yet. Let's go down this side, actually. There's a little house for something over here. Oops, sorry about that. I don't know what goes in there. I don't think I need to know what. I made this raised bed a couple of years ago. It was a bit more full earlier in the season, but the lettuces and things like that that were in here I have pretty much harvested now. There's a tomato though, some nice nasturtium, purely as a companion plant. There's more lettuces happening, and basil and parsley. More basil and parsley. Chives as well, more Artemisia, and more tomatoes. They're plum tomatoes, and as you can see, they're ripening up nicely. This little area here with a calla lily and some nasturtium and lobelia, which is hanging on. This is kind of a nursery area. Oh, a mosquito has just taken a bite out of me. I planted these from seed. This is an amphora poppy. Lovely white bloom. And again, I'll be waiting for it to go to seed later in the year so that I can collect and replant next year because it is an annual. Elephant ears with sweet peas. Another seed that I purchased in the UK in May. The name escapes me. Again, I'll let it go to seed so that I can collect and plant again next year. These are hot peppers, really hot. I collected a couple yesterday. They're just starting to happen now. I think there's one happening in here that you might be able to see. There it is. Lots of blooms, so there will be a lot of peppers here in the next month or so. I will be making sauce from them. Sumac. Considered a junk tree by many, but it does have some beautiful ornamental properties, I think. Limelight hydrangea is just starting to come into its own here. I have 3 of these shrubs. A very beautiful bloom. Love the kind of chartreusey green, and then it fades into kind of a pink blush later in September. It's the garden shed. And a couple of garages in the front of the house. And I'll just show you the zinnias that are doing very well this year as well. Don't normally grow them, but did this year just for fun. And I'm glad I did because they've provided a really lovely pop of color here at the front. They're looking great. There's another clump on this side. We've had a little bit of rain this morning, but we could definitely use more. There we are. And that's the garden tour. Thank you.